Welcome to the Nature Commission State of Nature 2024 talk series. This talk will be about the state of grasslands, and the information is taken from habitat surveys that have taken place in Guernsey. There are 4 types of grassland in Guernsey and Herm: dune grassland, coastal grassland, dry grassland, and marshy grassland. In this talk, we are going to focus on dry and marshy grassland. The other 2 types of grassland, dune grassland and coastal grassland, will be covered in our talk on coastal habitats. Dry and marshy grasslands are further classified by the degree of agricultural improvement they have received. Agricultural improvement is to increase the yield of the land. This improvement includes the application of artificial fertilizers and pesticides, or history of ploughing or reseeding. Improved grasslands are less biodiverse than semi-improved and unimproved grasslands, as the previously mentioned practices remove sensitive wildflowers from the grassy sward. From 2018, there is no unimproved grassland left in Guernsey or Herm, and this can be seen on this graph on the screen. So in 1999, you could see a very small amount of unimproved grassland in the dark green. In 2010, there was even less, and then in 2018, it had disappeared completely. As such, it is classed as a priority habitat by the states of Guernsey, with the aim being to promote its re-establishment, although this is not a quick, easy, or cheap process. Loss of this habitat was mainly due to intensive management and also the lack of management. Most of this grassland has now changed to improved grassland, which reflects the intensive management. Unimproved grassland was one of the most diverse habitats in Guernsey and supported many delicate plants. In Herm, improved grassland is dominant, making up 23% of Herm's terrestrial area. The other type of dry grassland in Herm, which is semi-improved grassland, has declined by 96% since 1999. This is due to the succession of scrub, agricultural improvement, and woodland planting. We will now look at marshy grassland. Marshy grassland is also split into 2 categories: unimproved and semi-improved. Semi-improved has only been included in the habitat surveys as a category since 2010. Semi-improved marshy grassland areas will have had some intervention in the past, such as pesticides, herbicides, ploughing, or reseeding. Both unimproved and semi-improved marshy grasslands are priority habitats as they support high levels of biodiversity. In small areas, they can support 50 to 70 plant species, and in larger areas, they can support up to 100 species. And this makes these areas very good habitat for insects and birds. If we look at the graph on the screen, we can see that there have been declines of 37% in the total area of marshy grassland in Guernsey since 1999. And this has caused the extinction of several marshy grassland species, such as 3-lobe begatips, which is a species of flowering plant. A large proportion of our biodiverse marshy grasslands are designated as sites of special significance. Many are also owned by local NGOs such as La Société or the National Trust of Guernsey, and they are managed as nature reserves, which help protect them from development or inappropriate management. Sensitive long-term management is needed to maintain these habitats and prevent succession to woodland over the long term. Marshy grassland is a good habitat for orchids. As seen on the screen, there is a loose-flowered orchid, and this is one such plant which is found in the Channel Islands but not found in the UK. This is because the Channel Islands are on the northerly edge of their range, and this species particularly thrives in low-lying wetland meadows, such as the Bridget Ozanne orchid fields. It is important to understand the causes and rate of change in the natural environment to be able to understand how we can manage and mitigate the negative impacts and promote the positive impacts of those changes. Various factors will drive change directly and indirectly and can be generated naturally or by human activities. Decisions can be made at the individual, community, business, and government level to influence the drivers of change. State of Nature 2024 has identified the primary threats, also known as pressures, to the state of our habitats and species, and delves further into the detail of what is driving those threats. By increasing our understanding of drivers of change, alongside improved understanding of our species and habitats, we can introduce additional targeted conservation measures to try and address the imbalance brought about by negative anthropogenic human impacts. The threats to our grasslands are listed here on the screen. Improvement for agricultural purposes, overgrazing, drainage of marshy grassland, and the lack of appropriate management. It is widely acknowledged in the UK that the post-war demand for self-sufficient food production has reduced the amount of biodiverse natural habitats. This is due to the intensification of farming methods and the loss of ecologically important farmland habitat to grass or arable monocultures. The same has happened in Guernsey, although on a smaller scale, causing large amounts of land to become less suitable for wildlife. Intensive land management, as well as lack of management for biodiversity, has driven habitat change and species decline. If we look at the graph on the right, we can see the area of scrub in Guernsey. And by scrub, we mean bramble, blackthorn and gorse, and it is shown in the dark brown areas. And it has increased in area year on year, and this will be due to the lack of management, so the grassland gets taken over by scrub. As we mentioned earlier, improved grassland is the dominant habitat type in Guernsey, with this land typically used for silage, grazing, or sometimes amenity purposes. As such, it is poor habitat for wildlife and has replaced several areas of species-rich grassland. These improved areas can be species poor for several decades, even when they are no longer receiving agricultural inputs. Other agricultural habitats include arable land and short-term ley, as can be seen on the graphic on the left. The combined total area of these three habitats increased in Guernsey by 14% between 1999 and 2010. Short-term ley increased by 15% between 2010 and 2018. Leys are intensively managed grasslands for silage or grazing, which are regularly ploughed and reseeded with single species high productivity grass. On the graphic on the left, we can see that short-term ley in the sort of pinky orange colour was introduced as a category to the Habitat Survey in 2010 and has increased by 15% between 2010 and 2018. There is little protection against activities which are exempt from the States of Guernsey planning requirements, such as ploughing. Traditionally, arable land in Guernsey supported a wide diversity of annual flowers, which needed disturbed land to thrive. Intensive management has reduced floral diversity. It threatens our soil health and can release carbon from soils into the atmosphere due to activities like ploughing. But there are things that we can do to help. Better education, the availability of guidance and effective policies, assessment of business impacts, and the introduction and enforcement of robust legislation can help ensure that our natural environment, our habitats, and our species are protected and enhanced for the health of our economy and the well-being of our island community, both now and into the future. There are many great organisations who are already supporting the natural environment in the work that they do, from biological data collection to clearance of dominant plants to nature education events. Corporate support is a valuable way to help these local charities in their work. The slides show some of the traditional methods of managing some of these grasslands. In the left slide, the Guernsey Conservation volunteers are raking a grassland, raking the hay off this traditionally managed field. On the right, the Guernsey Conservation volunteers are cutting hemlock water dropwort in the orchid fields to ensure that this plant does not become dominant. And in the centre picture, they show small flags which are counting adder's tongue, which are in some of these grassland areas. There is always more work to be done, and we will now run through some of the ways that you can help reduce your impact on the natural environment and how you can help us enhance native biodiversity in Guernsey and Herm. An important way that islanders can help address data gaps and protect the natural environment is by recording sightings of local wildlife. Software such as iRecord or iNaturalist, which are free apps, facilitate the submission of wildlife sightings from multiple sources, particularly the public, to the Guernsey Biological Records Centre. Submission of sightings can include native or invasive non-native species and need only include the location, date, and the number seen. This is important in helping to understand abundance and distribution across Guernsey and Herm, increasing our knowledge through an increase in the submission of biological sightings or records will help to inform conservation measures. You could volunteer with some of our local organisations, which are listed in the State of Nature 2024. Guernsey Conservation Volunteers is particularly involved with the conservation of our grassland habitats through the removal of dominant species and traditional management such as raking hay, as seen on the last slide. They meet every Wednesday and alternate Saturdays throughout the year. There's no pressure to go to every work party, just help when you can. Citizen science projects that you can take part in are listed in State of Nature 2024. UK BMS and bee walks are being launched by the Nature Commission next year. These projects involve walking a predetermined route during the appropriate seasons and counting butterflies and bees seen during that time. Some transects have already been set up on our grassland habitats, and if you would like to learn more, please contact the Nature Commission. Managing green spaces with wildlife in mind is another way that you can help. 1/3 of terrestrial habitats in Guernsey consist of domestic gardens. If everyone gardened for wildlife, this would provide a major boost to many species by providing additional habitat. If you manage your garden in the correct manner, you could even get orchids appearing on your lawn. Actions are listed in the full report and include mowing less frequently, growing a range of native wildlife-friendly plants, and considering alternatives to pesticides. But it is recommended that you understand what you have in your garden before making any changes. Your garden may be perfect for wildlife, just as it is. The full State of Nature 2024 report is available on our website via this QR code. The State of Nature 2024 summary report is also available on our website. We would like to thank the kind support from the Guernsey Community Foundation, the States of Guernsey, and the Social Investment Fund. And if you would like to contact us, the details are here on the screen: www.naturecommission.gg or by email office@naturecommission.gg. Thank you for listening. Welcome to the Nature Commission State of Nature 2024 talk series.